Hello knitters, it's Faye Lynn from Strands Knitting Studio in San Clemente, California. And I'm going on vacation next week. And so I thought it'd be a good time to talk about what you take for knitting on a vacation. And knitters and vacations is a very interesting thing because sometimes we spend more time trying to figure out what we want to take on our trip than we do actually getting ready and planning and packing for the trip. It can become a whole thing. And so over the years, I've learned that I used to take way too much because, oh, what if I don't want to knit on that? What if I want to knit on? But like I have also the thing where I don't have to think about, but I don't want to be bored. So maybe I need to take this too. And, you'd end up with like a suitcase for your knitting if you could, like if you're on a road trip. Obviously flying, you actually have to pare yourself down. So these days though, I've pretty much got it pared down, and most people do, especially if you're flying. I am not flying. I am on a road trip, so mine could be a little bit more expanded than flying, but I'll sort of cover both things. And I think I'll talk a little bit about flying first. So first of all, everybody asks, can you bring needles? Yes, you can bring needles. If you really are nervous about it, just check with your airline and their TSA restrictions and see. But domestically, there really is never an issue. Going international, there might be issues going one way or the other, so you just need to sort of check on that and see what the TSA is. And then the other thing is if you use wooden needles, the laminated wood or something other than the metals, for sure those don't get taken away. Every now and then a metal one might get taken away. And but that's like, I haven't had any issues for years, like years. And I've done a lot of flying with my needles. So that's number one. Yes, you can. And then you want to just get yourself all in one little bag. So I like this size of a knitting bag for on the plane is perfect. And first thing I suggest you use circular needles and not double points or straight needles while you're on the plane or in a train. Because man, if you drop one of those needles, it rolls around, you might not find it, you have to bother other people. Where if you're on a circular, you can't drop your needle. So that's number one. So I would, while I'm on the plane, be on circular needles. And the other thing is to have something small. So socks is obviously the most popular thing people knit on when they're traveling on planes because it's just one skein of yarn and you're on little tiny needles and it's all like this big and stuff. So that's a really popular one. But obviously you can do hats, cowls, sweaters, piece sweaters where you're like working on a sleeve, but the rest of your sweater's in your suitcase or something. All those are really good ideas for the plane. Now car trips, all bets are off for a car trip, right? Because you can sort of do whatever you want. So, but I still need to keep mine, contained. I do have other people in my car with other luggages, and so I don't want to overwhelm the car with my knitting. I'm going to show you what I have in my little knit case, my little kit, which if you come to the store, I have a pretty big kit that I use while I'm teaching because it's got everything in it. I don't want to take that, it's way too big. So I pare it all down to just what you need when you're knitting. So my little kit, most of my kit is this. All right, it's just a little plastic kit that has little dividers inside of it and can fit most of my things. It's not even full. It's pretty empty. It's pretty empty. So markers are the number one thing. Knitters were on some Instagram or something I was looking at. Somebody asked, what are your most important tools for knitting? Everybody, markers was number one. So I have, just the regular everyday ones. Then I have a few that are different than those, so that those can be my round markers, and those are just, I got some like my cutie ones. Then I also have split markers and pen markers so that I can pin things that count rows and stuff like that. So there's a split marker, and that way I use these a lot to count things. Like if I go 10 rows, I'll stick something in the 10th row, so I don't have to keep counting the whole thing over and over and over again. And so you'll see my knitting has little pins or these stuck in them, and there's like a line of them, and that's how I count rows and keep track of where I'm going. Of course, you're gonna need sewing needles. So I have a couple of those in here. Plastic one, regular one. Plastic ones, if you're flying, plastic ones are really, really good. And then I also have waist yarn. So I have a light and a dark color waist yarn. And that's where if you're doing socks and you need to put your heels stuff on a waist yarn, or if you want to put in a lifeline for something, you've always got it there, because it's really hard when you don't, and you need it and you don't have it. It's hard to find something else to use instead. There's a lot of things I can find something else to use instead, but waist yarn and lifelines, that's sort of hard. So that's all that's in this kit. That's all I need. And then that would just go into my bag. And then I have a tape measure. You always got to have a tape measure. And then I have my knit check for my needles. Mostly this is for measuring, you know, is my sock long enough, is my foot long enough. It's sort of hard to put sometimes my foot on my real foot if I'm in a plane to see if it's long enough, so I know the measurements. So knit check is a good thing, because again, it's just easy to measure with it. Then, and then I have extra needles. Now, I highly suggest that if you, whatever you're doing, that you bring an extra needle with you of whatever size needles you're using. So that for some reason, something happens to your needle, it breaks, you know, things can happen. You have another needle. Highly suggest an extra needle. And then I'll have extra needles for that. And then my biggest trick, one of my other magic tricks, what I gave you last week, one of my other magic tricks is having a very tiny needle, or at least a few, like 3 to 4 sizes smaller than the needle you're using, and to help pick up stitches. So if you see, this is like a 0. And if you're doing socks, you're going to need something like this. If you're on a size 8, you could use a size 3 or 4, and it would work perfect. But if you have to take your stuff off and pull it out, then using a little smaller needle to go through the stitches to pick it up makes it a breeze. The needle just slips right in. You don't have to, you're not pulling things out as you go. And then you just knit with your real needle, the first row you knit, and now you're on your real needle. So I always have a small needle there, and that's it. That's all the needles I'm gonna carry. Because if I buy something, you know, if there's a yarn store, because it's the other thing you do is if you're traveling, if there's yarn stores around, and you want to check them out, you know, like people do here all the time, because this is a vacation spot. They come and look at the yarn store and see if there's anything that's cool that they don't have in their area. And then, so you may end up buying a needle. If you've got room to bring your set, then bring your set. If you don't have room, you're going to buy another needle. That's just the way it goes, because I want that yarn and I want to start it right now. I do not want to wait till I come home. I'm starting it right now. So, but if you have extra needles for what you're working on, then that's like huge. You don't have to go, oh my God, I can't knit. Oh my God, I can't knit. That would be terrible, right? So here's that. And that goes in my bag. Then I also have some crochet hooks. I have a tiny, tiny one if I'm knitting socks, and sort of a medium one for everything else to help pick up stitches, help fix things. Those are always good to have around. Now scissors, I'm going to be taking my regular scissors because I'm on a road trip. Obviously, if you're in a plane, this is the one thing you might want to get, the little teeny tiny ones that you can find places. They've also got, there's a round one that has some slits in it where you just pull the yarn through and it cuts it, and it's just round. It can even be a pendant if you want to. So there's no way it gets, you know, in anything. But the most TSA, it's a 4-inch blade. It has to be under 4 inches. So most of the little tiny things that you can get are fine. And there's those really itty bitty ones that nobody even notices. So scissors, obviously you need scissors. Now I have everything on my iPad, patterns. Patterns, you need your pattern, and you need a backup copy of your pattern. Because again, what if you lose your pattern? So if it's digital or whatever, I do everything digitally. I have the app is called Goodreader. You have to buy it. It's real inexpensive. It's basically a PDF reader, and all my patterns download to a PDF. I move it over there, and then you can still, I can put a highlighter that moves. I can make notes. I love Goodreader, and so all my patterns are on there. I cringe if I can't get a pattern on there, and I'm actually using paper. It drives me crazy. But so the other thing about Goodreader is you can make the fonts bigger, so everything gets bigger. You can read it with, you know, once you're my age, and it's like you can make things really bigger. So I've got that digital copy, and it's downloaded, so I don't need internet to get it off. Now I haven't bought the bigger package where it'll talk to all my things. So like it's not on my phone. I have Good Reader on my phone. But if something happens, then I'm going to download the same pattern on my phone, and it's going to also be on my iPad. So I have 2 copies of it. Of course, if I get to an internet, I can always download it again from the internet. So that's what I do, and I don't use paper. And so, but if you do use paper, you need a second copy of your pattern, just in case something gets lost, it gets wet, it gets ruined, whatever. You need another copy of your pattern, so you're not, again, stuck. I have no knitting, oh my God. So now, if you're gonna use paper, highlighter, tape works really, really well. The other thing I use also is Post-its. And the bigger size, as you can see, this is the bigger one, and also the Post-it brand, because the sticky is better and you can move it for a long time before it runs out of sticky, to keep your place, to write notes on and stuff. And then again, if you're using paper, I'd have a pen, a pencil, and I'd have a highlighter just in case you need to highlight something on your pattern. So if you've got paper, I would also have these 4 things in my kit also. So I would put all of that in here. Now this is so it's all in here. And then this one you would need a bag that's a little bigger than this for everything. So I might have a bag that's a little smaller for this to fit all this stuff in. And then this would fit in one that's a little bigger that then would have my skeins. Now, how much knitting do you want to bring? It depends on how long you're gone, is it a road trip, you're in the car a lot and you're going to have a lot of knitting time, or are you on a plane and you're going to be gone every day and you're only going to be knitting like at night when you're exhausted and, you know, time to just shut down and knit something you don't have to think about and relax. So that's going to dictate a lot, right? On a car trip, it's really easy to overdo car trips. So socks, if you don't know how to knit socks, they really are a great travel thing. They're also a great project to always have in your car. Like I have a little bag, has a pair of socks, just plain socks, in my car, so that mostly in my husband's car, so that if we're stuck somewhere, like he's gonna go do something, or where like I can grab my thing and I can just knit. It's there, it's always there, I don't have to think about it. But it's same with this, like the socks are small, it's 1 skein of yarn, maybe 2 if you have a contrasting color, but it's a small skein and a regular skein. And and it's really easy. So speaking of, we got our new color for the Socket Club. Isn't that amazing? So you would have these 2. You'd have this skein and this little tiny skein in your thing to knit. Now socks take a while to knit, so a lot of people, a pair of socks is going to do it. And if by chance you don't, like it doesn't, and there's a knit store, buying sock yarn is always the easiest thing to do at a knit store, is to buy something for a pair of socks. Because you know what to do with it, 1 skein. So for me this time, I'm going to actually knit a cowl. I found a cowl, and I will put the picture down because I don't remember the name right now. There'll be a picture right here. And it looks really fun. There are people that they'll knit 3 and 4 of these things. So once I hear that, I'm like, okay, this is easy pattern. It's really pretty. And we've got our other set of pop-up special colors that we got from Dream came in. Oh my God, I'm in love. This is this is so pretty. So I'm gonna put it with this because you need 2 colors for my cowl, and it's like a broken seed stitch and then striping. So this will be striping and then a broken seed stitch. And as I said, I'm gonna make 2, and this will be my other color. And so this for me is starting some Christmas gift. These are gonna be Christmas gifts. So that's what I'm gonna. So I'm gonna have 4 skeins with me. But again, I'm in a car, so I can have 4 skeins with me and I'll be fine. These aren't that giant. And so I was considering doing a sweater. That's how, you know, this gets. Oh, this is a super simple sweater that I wouldn't have to deal with. And I was thinking that would be really good. It still might be really good, but this sounds more fun right now. So it's the new pretty shiny thing. So I'm gonna buy the new pretty shiny thing. So that's probably what I'm gonna do, and I'll wind those up, and that's my knitting for the week. I'm going to be weak, and I'm going to have a good amount of downtime and stuff with car travel and everything. So that is traveling with your knitting, and it's fun. It keeps you busy. It keeps you relaxed when things are like, especially when you're flying. If your flight gets delayed, oh, well, I just get more knitting time. You're not stressed. You don't care because I can just sit here, knit, and enjoy myself. And whatever's going on, it's going on. And you're not all, ooh, you're panicked up. It's amazing. And then if you get nervous flying, it's a great way just to calm down and just, focus here, and not worry about all the other stuff going on. So anyways, that's basically knitting and my tips for traveling with your knitting. And I will see you the next one, which will be more about the socks. Today I decided to do the traveling since I'm traveling. And then we will, now that we have our sock yarns in, we will go more into the sock yarns and socks next time, because you really do need to learn how to knit socks. Even if you end up not being a sock knitter, it's okay. You still know how to knit a pair of socks, but you could be a sock knitter. You have no idea how popular socks are. How many people only knit socks? You don't knit anything else because there's so much you can do on a pair of socks. It's never dull. And so you really need to know how to knit a sock. So we're going to talk about socks next time or the time after. And other than that, see you next time, and I hope I see you in the studio soon. Bye.